The Chicago White Sox lost another close game. Probably not worth it to be frustrated, but maybe annoyed. Let's discuss the array of emotions as the Sox lost for the 22nd time over their past 25 games next on Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of Southside Showdown, part of the Fansided Network. You can check out my written content at southsideshowdown.com. And also, I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Also, follow or subscribe to the show at wherever you get your podcasts. Well, the White Sox are giving the Seattle Mariners all they can handle, but not walking away with any victories. Luis Robert Jr. saw the first pitch he faced in the game and ripped a ninth-inning solo home run to tie it at 1-1, as yesterday's game was a classic pitcher's duel between the Mariners' Bryce Miller and Sox rookie Jonathan Cannon. Once again, the Sox could not pull through as Mitch Haniger hit a pinch hit walk-off single in the 10th, and it was clear that this was going to be a bad season. But it was hard to imagine it would be this bad, considering the Sox have never been this awful in the history of a franchise that has been around since 1900. That's why in the first segment, I wanted to discuss what is the proper state of emotions to be feeling right now. Then the front office made some roster moves as Andrew Benintendi has returned from the IL. I'll discuss if the Sox DFA'd the right player and the joy you should have seeing general manager Chris Getz take away one of manager Pedro Grifol's figurative new toys away. And finally, some ex-Sox are thriving elsewhere. It just feels like a mild gut punch to see. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive, with all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to bring home that big win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. Well, rookie starting pitcher Jonathan Cannon deserved better as he was outstanding in his return to the starting rotation. He went 7 innings, gave up just 1 run, a homer to Luke Raley in the 7th. He allowed 4 hits, walked 1, and struck out 7. Now, I can rail on Pedro for having Cannon go out there for the 7th, but considering how bad the bullpen has been, I give Pedro some grace on that. I could also go on and on about how the Sox shouldn't trade Luis Robert Jr., but then I'd be sounding like a broken record. Instead, it's just time to talk about, the Sox losing a lot and what should you and I be feeling right now, especially since this defeat is on the offense. They had 3 hits, went 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Cashing in on scoring chances has been a huge weakness for this team, as they have a 205 average with runners in scoring position, which is dead last. They're also dead last in the league with 139 RBIs in those situations. And they're also second to last in at-bats with runners in scoring position. And think about the OPS plus that they have with running scoring position. I'll tell you that in just a second, but think about it. OPS plus, the league average is always assumed to be 100. The Sox OPS plus with runners in scoring position is 58. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. So at this point, a majority of you probably have apathy. And it's rightfully so. This franchise has done everything wrong since that ball landed in an Iowa cornfield on Tim Anderson's dramatic walk-off home run back in the Field of Dreams game in 2021. And that seems like I don't even know if I would say a lifetime ago. That seems like 5 lifetimes ago. It seems like my great-grandpa watched that. And that is why, as I was watching another defeat, I thought, should I be frustrated with this? Is it worth my time to be frustrated? I mean, it's not like this team was going to the playoffs this year. The odds had it as very slim. And I may not like how Chris Getz got the GM job, but at least he understands that this is not going to be a quick turnaround. It's best to hit the restart button. And right now, this isn't even a rebuild. We haven't even gotten to the rebuild yet. This is a reset everything. Getz needs to overhaul how everything is done in this organization. And it does sound like there's at least some progress, albeit very incremental, in some of his front office hires that could lead to the necessary changes to actually make this franchise a functional, modern team. And I know you're going to say, well, owner Jerry Reinsdorf's out there. I get it. That's why I said incremental. Keyword, incremental. And plus, right now, amateur scouting director Mike Shirley and player development director Paul Janisch, they might be more important to the organization than Getz, because Shirley is charged with finding the next batch of good prospects through the draft, and Janisch is tasked with developing them. I mean, all Getz can do right now is churn over the roster and then pull off more trades to add more prospects at the trade deadline. And again, I could go over, should he be trading Luis Robert Jr., who, again, first pitch he saw, gone. Should he trade Garrett Crochet to get more prospects? And I've discussed that on previous shows. And I'm not defending Getz here. I'm just saying his roster construction skills should be taken to task, say, next offseason, when he will theoretically, again, keyword theoretically, because that's where you can definitely say, well, Jerry Reinsdorf's not going to let him spend. He will theoretically have money to spend and hopefully a new manager. And apathy is fine, but if you're still a diehard, if you're still watching like me, or you're still checking in to this show, because I'm watching it for you, it's really hard to see your favorite baseball team not play good baseball. You would at least like them to play decent baseball. Or again, be fun bad. I've talked about that in the past. 17-52 is just something that I didn't think was in the cards. And it's evidenced by the 25 blown leads this team has had this season. 25 blown leads. That is nearly 50% of their losses have come because they cannot protect a lead. If, say they only had like 10 blown losses, you're at least at 27 wins. And while it's not, hey, let's throw a parade, at least it's fun bad or just run of the mill bad. But this bullpen is terrible outside of Jordan Leisure and Steven Wilson, who just got back from the IL. Michael Kopech makes you a nervous wreck every time he is on the mound with a lead. The offense does not score enough runs to put the team away, to put the opponent away. And it has been even more annoying because I think that's the proper emotion right now, just to be annoyed if you don't have the apathy. Because again, they've been so close to winning and they just cannot put a team away. They've had leads in 9 of their past 10 defeats, including 2 to their crosstown rival Chicago Cubs. And they keep finding ways to lose. Fun bad isn't watching to see the pace this team is on to set the worst record in the modern era. By the way, the 62 Mets, with their 120 overall losses, considered the worst team in the modern era. They were 19-50 through 69 games at this point. The 2003 Tigers, the least amount of wins in a 162 game schedule, they were 17-52 at this point too. And if you're a fan who has paid attention, or even if you still checked out, you might be at least excused to feel frustrated because this team continues to employ manager Pedro Grifol and has inconsistent accountability throughout the organization, as I discussed on yesterday's show. I think that's where there's got to be some frustration. They still have this goober running the team, and it's costing them wins. And again, why are you like, well, again, it's a lost season because the Sox will not be picking in the top 10 in next year's draft because of the new rules. Well, the Sox sort of had some accountability standards yesterday with a couple of their roster moves yesterday. Let's discuss those next on Locked On White Sox. Prize Picks is America's number one fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It is the most fun, exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on two or more player stats for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. There's always action on Prize Picks, and this is the perfect time to try out something new as basketball is winding down. Make sure to try out esports this month because for every Wednesday and Saturday in June, if your lineup doesn't win, you'll get your entry fee back. Choose from Counter-Strike 2, Call of Duty, League of Legends, and more. And if you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has got you covered every week, from lowering select player stats projections on Tuesdays, which increases your chances of getting a win, to getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. Plus, you can still get your payout. You can still get a payout even if you miss on, say, one of your 6 choices if you go with the flex play. However, if you go with the power play, meaning if every pick wins, you win a higher payout. Minimum entry is just $5. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And a lot of life is unpredictable, but good life insurance plans gives you your family a financial safety net to protect against some of the unknowns. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. That's just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. A couple of years back, I made a job change. I realized my work life insurance from my previous job wasn't going to follow me. My wife was expecting my daughter, so I shopped around for a policy. And man, I wish I used Policygenius back then. It was just such a hard process without them, and I'm still getting annoying emails and calls from agents still trying to sell me a policy. Instead, I should have used Policygenius since Policygenius helps you easily compare your options from America's top insurers in just a few clicks. Policygenius has no incentive to recommend one insurer over the other, so you can trust their guidance. Get peace of mind by finding the right life insurance policy with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com. And are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest sports stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the Mariners take on and the White Sox take on the Seattle Mariners in the final game of a 4-game set as Chicago hopes to avoid getting swept. First pitch is at 8:40 p.m. Central. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. And thank you for making the show your first listen. Again, lots of great White Sox podcasts out there, like the CHGO podcast. And Herb Lawrence, he's the former host, actually, of Locked On White Sox. He'll be joining me next week. But when it comes to your White Sox podcasts out there, I just hope I'm your first listen. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Also follow or subscribe to the show on wherever you get your podcasts. Andrew Benintendi and Steven Wilson, they came off the injured list yesterday. Wilson came in to pitch the 10th, and he gave up that winning run. Benintendi, he also pinch hit in the 10th with Danny Mendick on third and struck out swinging to end the game. And that's right, folks. Benintendi is back with his .512 OPS. However, since he was on the 10-day IL, he no longer qualifies to be ranked in OPS. So it can no longer be said that he is officially the worst hitter in baseball among players with enough at-bats to be ranked. Heck, even Andrew Vaughn is climbing the rankings as he is now 129th in OPS. ahead of the likes such as Paul Goldschmidt and Anthony Rizzo. And I could, Benintendi coming back and not being put in the rotation right away. I mean, put in the lineup right away makes you kind of think, is that Achilles still bothering him? Are they rushing him back? Did they need to bring him back so fast? Because they got a crowded outfield right now. And it's going to get even more crowded once Tommy Pham returns from the IL. Now, the Sox should be able to rotate Luis Robert Jr. and Gavin Sheets with some at-bats as they can play, they can be put in at DH. And they're going to give LRJ some nights off like they did yesterday. Well, at least until the ninth inning when they needed him to save the team. Another reason why maybe you should keep Luis Robert Jr., build around him. I don't know. So they should still be able to get young players like Oscar Colas or Zach DeLoach some at-bats along with Corey Julks. You can rotate them on the days that Luis Robert Jr. is getting a day off. You can always put Gavin Sheets at first, give Andrew Vaughn a little bit of a rest with that injured ring finger. Although Corey Julks, I think the heater is over, as he's hitting under 200 over his last 7 games. He's slumping, and they dropped him down in the order. Nicky Lopez had hit leadoff. But a decision will have to be made of who's going to go back to AAA when Pham comes back. I would nominate DeLoach just because you're still going to have some power off the bench with Colas. And really with Colas, it's just a matter of him having good at-bats at this point. He doesn't really need to work on a swing, rework on a swing or make sure he's launching the ball. You just want him to have those consistent plate appearances with him being patient at the plate like he's shown and controlling the strike zone. DeLoach, you have that on-base guy late in the game, but since Duke Ellis was sent down to AAA, Pedro Grifol no longer has his pinch runner option. That's right, the front office took away one of his favorite toys. I don't know if Pedro saw himself in Duke Ellis. He was playing Duke Ellis way too much. I mean, I get it. He's fast. But that's all he can do. He runs fast. He was awful in the field. He couldn't hit worth a lick. He's basically Billy Hamilton without good fielding. And I don't know why Pedro was just obsessed with putting him in. It actually cost the Sox a game. I talked about it on a previous show. He pitch ran Ellis for Corey Julks. I believe it was Monday he did that. Or Sunday. Yeah, it was Sunday with the Martin Maldonado. Pitch ran him. Takes Corey Julks out. You then have another opportunity to potentially put ahead some more runs, and you got to go with Duke Ellis, who was clearly overwhelmed at the plate. I don't even think he expected to be up. But at least that toy is taken away. Finally, reliever Tim Hill, he was DFA'd as the other move to make room on the roster for Wilson and Benintendi's return. We won't have you and I won't have Tim Hill interesting looks to kick around anymore. I used to say, I expected Tim Hill to be selling me some white walls instead of being a left-handed reliever. He just had that look. But the former Royal is gone after he posted a 5.87 ERA and a 2.22 WHIP in 27 games. Just another former Kansas City Royal not working out for the White Sox. Who could have saw that coming? But finally, someone was held accountable for being terrible in the bullpen, although it was more like a numbers game, as he was the one chosen to be removed, according to Grifol. I mean, Hill or John Brebbia would have been my choice as tribute, considering Brebbia has also been pretty bad out of the bullpen, although recently he's had some better appearances, so that's why it makes sense for Hill to be DFA'd. Hill had a 20.25 ERA in 3 appearances this month. So I got no problem with him being sacrificed for the greater good. Hopefully this DFA does not come back to bite the Sox like another one has, as I'll discuss a player who is thriving after being let go this season, along with some other players doing well, some other former players doing well. Next, Locked On White Sox. Here on Locked On White Sox, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year round. You know what else is year round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. I have some 1099 income coming my way this year, and I still have to figure out this whole quarterly filing thing along with filing jointly. And I've tried to find assistance to no avail, so I think I need to give them a call. With over 14 years of experience and an A-plus rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000. That's 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/locked on. See the link in this episode description below. And the White Sox take on the Seattle Mariners in the final game of a 4-game set as Chicago hopes to avoid getting swept. First pitch is at 8:40 p.m. Central Standard Time. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And welcome back into Locked On White Sox. I want to thank you for sticking with me. Love you everydayers. Although I actually read some of the reviews on Locked On White Sox, and I got to say, if you didn't like me sipping coffee, you could have just emailed me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. You don't have to be mean and give like a 1-star review because he sips coffee or he takes too many breaks. All right, I won't sip coffee, but I'm not a camel, so I do need to drink some water. So I'm going to let you in on, guys, on the reviews. A lot of hosts will drink water, and it's not just podcast hosts, it's radio hosts. They'll even drink coffee. I know. I used to produce radio. We're not camels. And also pauses. Do you want me to be in the micro machine, talk like this all day? Blah, blah, blah. Then you're going to be like, I can't understand them. It's called pacing. Okay, little inside baseball. It's called pacing. My mentor, Bill Michaels. Very successful show in Wisconsin. Guess what he does? He talks with pace. So wherever they hurt you, point it on the doll. Don't take it out on me. Because that's the thing where I think the one issue I have seen with a lot of people, why we're so just vicious, is everybody hides behind a username and thinks, well, I can just say what I want and I can vent. Like there's just too many trolls in the world. And why do you want to be a troll? Be more positive. Be happy. And you could say, well, see, you're mad because you got a 1-star review. No, when I was reading it, I'm like, really? Really? I drink coffee and I pace myself. That's why you're upset? That's why you feel the need to hit on me? Not my takes? Just call me a loser? Oh, okay. Sounds good. And you know what? Again, you guys could I'm on X, formerly Twitter. And I try to think I'm a pretty nice guy, but hey, whatever. I really do appreciate, though, the ones that leave the comments on YouTube. You guys are awesome. Our YouTube commenters and the people that are, hitting the like button or gently hitting the like button. Love that comment. So to our YouTube comment and to my YouTube audience, you guys are great. To even my podcast listeners, you guys are great. There's about 4 listeners out there, though, where I want to be like, man, why you got to be so mean? Anyways, so White Sox insider and also USA Today baseball insider Bob Nightingale tweeted this out at B Nightingale. Veteran outfielder Kevin Pillar, released by the White Sox after 17 games this year, is now hitting .382 with 6 homers and 24 RBI in 27 games with the Angels. Now, I'll take Tommy Pham as Pilar had a 160, 290, 360 slash line with the Sox, and it didn't seem like he had the effect on the clubhouse like Pham has had. But still, not a good look for the White Sox. Not great to cut a guy and then he just goes somewhere else and thrives. Or, he's the player that you envisioned when you brought him in this offseason. And you know what else is not a good look for the Sox? Reynaldo Lopez pitching great as a starting pitcher for the Atlanta Braves. You might remember how he struggled as a starter during the rebuild days last decade for the Sox. Had a 5.38 ERA in 2019. He did get moved to the bullpen. He did well, especially in 2022. He was traded before last year's deadline along with Lucas Giolito to the Angels. They got catching prospect Edgar Quero for him. And Edgar is tearing it up at Double-A. So I'm not upset that they traded Lopez because they weren't going to pay him in free agency. It's one reason why he was traded. And they weren't going to probably make him a starter. But still, 30 years old, goes to the Braves, and he has a 1.85 ERA as a starter. Not a good look for the Chicago White Sox, especially since now they want to look like a team that can develop pitching. Chris Sale continues to defy Father Time. He's 35 years old, but he has a 3.01 ERA and 12 starts for the Braves. He had a 0.56 ERA in May. Now, he did get roughed up by the A's on June 1st, and the belief is he's eventually going to have a regression, but he came back with a strong start on June 7th against the Nationals. And the Sox, well, we still have to deal with Yohan Moncada always being on the IL and Michael Kopech being a head case. I kind of think the White Sox actually lost that trade. However, not everyone is thriving. Not every former player is doing great. Tim Anderson, he has a 202 average and a 0.453 OPS for the Marlins. We know Jose Abreu was struggling so badly that he had to go to their complex league for the Houston Astros. And Jake Berger, still miss him. But the former fan favorite, a 220 average with just 5 dingers for the Marlins. Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest sports stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I'll be back tomorrow to discuss the Sox final game with the Mariners and the upcoming series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube page at Locked On White Sox, or follow or subscribe to the show on wherever you get your podcasts. And feel free to leave comments about today's show regarding the annoyance of the Sox being awful this season, yesterday's roster moves, and some former players thriving elsewhere. You can leave them on YouTube, on X, formerly Twitter. I'm at Todd J. Dub or at Locked On Sox, or you can email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day. I will see you tomorrow.